A local rep has some ideas on how we should elect people like local reps and more. Like governors and stuff, and then we wouldn't have 36% governors or 40% governors like we have right now. It would be called a majority vote. Right now, it's whoever gets the highest number of votes wins. A lot of other states have runoffs, and they make sure that 50.1% or 50% plus one vote is the minimum required to actually get elected to office. State Representative Blake Filippi will join us and tell us why he wants to do that, and we'll cover some other bases as well on this Monday evening. It is a pleasure to have you aboard. Thank you very much for tuning in to Dan York's State of Mind. Let us check the rundown on some items that we can chat about here. What a big weekend, huh? And of course, it's bothered by what happened at the campus and outside campus with the celebration. Others are using different words for it, and we'll talk about that. Hillary Clinton announces for the presidency finally in a very subtle and social media fashion. Second time she's used social media. This time, a very different approach. Interesting. The Republicans matched Hillary's pace with Marco Rubio saying, hey, me too. And on a Friday afternoon, the president had a pretty important meeting into the news cycle. It kind of got buried over the weekend, but this whole thing with Cuba is no small matter. Of course, your state of mind is important to us. We'll check in with you on what you're thinking as we check the various ways for you to get in touch with the broadcast. Let's dig in a little bit and make a couple of comments. This was phenomenal. I mean, this is incredible. I'm sure you watched the game. You didn't watch the game? It was on ESPN if you weren't at the game. There they are. Nothing like a hockey championship and a hockey photo on the ice after a championship is won. And, of course, this was something else. And this poor guy, this poor BU goalie, Matt O'Connor, I mean, even if you were a PC fan, you had to feel, oh, no, where is it? He has no idea where that puck is. That tied the game at 3, and then Providence, scored a terrific goal where O'Connor had no shot, and there you see the struggle at the end as PC holds on to win 4-3 in its first ever match. There's the game winner. Kind of inverse order. This is the new routine. You know how the basketball teams cut down the nets? Well, the hockey team cuts up the net. It's a phenomenal victory for PC, phenomenal in so many ways. Poor Matt O'Connor, that goalie, though, I feel for him even today. That's the second time he's dropped a puck. It didn't kill him against North Dakota State in a game prior to that. They got away with a win. This time, he's got kind of a Buckner moment, it seems to me. Hopefully, he's got a long career ahead of him. Reportedly, he's NHL material, and I hope he has some real successes in the next level, because you don't want to live with that for the rest of your life. Everyone will bring it up. But good for PC. And of course, the celebration got a little bit out of hand. You have to remember something about all this, headline as we speak. College kids' brains aren't formed yet. Completely, anyway. And this is what happens sometimes. But, some news accounts have it as a riot. Some have it as a melee. I didn't see a riot or a melee. I mean, a riot or a melee is when people are hurting each other. In this particular case, we have a Providence police officer who's got 20 stitches on his head because a bottle was thrown and connected with him. Who knows if that's a PC student? At press time, the PC brass and the Providence police and mayor's office were to have a press conference. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Our production time didn't allow for us to cover that and comment on it here. But I just want to say this. I know people get very upset about these kind of collegiate celebrations. I mean, they're historic, and the kids haven't gotten any worse today than they were back in the day. I mean, I went to the University of Dayton, in Dayton, Ohio, and in my freshman year, when we won a national championship in football on the Division III level, they had paddy wagons in there and, riot gear from the police and tear gas and everything else. And kids get nuts. And I'm not kidding when I talk about the brain not being completely formed until, you're in your mid-20s. And add a little booze and gosh knows what else, there you have it. But PC's got to do a better job, I think, of when they've got the potential for these kinds of things, and all schools have to, in controlling environments. Everybody in Alumni Hall will watch the game there. Indoors, you have have less of a chance of having this kind of reaction. But I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't blemish what Nate Lehman and the team have done, because they were exemplary and they were as sportsmanlike and as composed and mature as any athletes I've seen in a long time. Congratulations to them. Moving to the national discussion of politics and running for the presidency, I mean, a whole hummer that Hillary Clinton is in the race, right? Headline, tells that she's in the game, and that's a picture from her video, which we'll bring up tomorrow. We don't have it today. We'll probably bring it up tomorrow because there's an interesting part of the video that I think is worth noting. But here's CBS' short take on it.
Hillary Clinton featured everyday Americans in an internet video with a much-anticipated announcement.
I'm running for president.
Now the former Secretary of State, Senator, and First Lady is in a van on a road trip to Iowa. She's posting pictures on social media of voters she's meeting along the way. Tuesday, she'll hold her first campaign event in the state with the first presidential caucuses. It's all part of a strategy reflected in her campaign mission statement that says, "We are humble, we take nothing for granted."
Really interesting strategy. Go online and take a look at that video. It's really funny. It starts, I thought it was one of those advertisements like 3, 4, or 5 seconds in you can skip on YouTube, but it was actually the campaign announcement itself. And it's like, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this. Families talking about what they're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this. And then she pops up in the back middle of it saying, oh, and I'm looking forward to running for the presidency. And I'm going to run for the presidency. I mean, it's so subtle, it's weird. But then again, everybody's got an opinion on Hillary Clinton. Now she's trying to soft shoe the way she's going to go about this. And if she remains consistent throughout the entire long presidential campaign, she probably advances with families who don't pay attention to the issues. She probably advances with women because she's a little bit more reserved in her approach. I think it's a brilliant strategy. And of course, we'll have plenty of time to talk more about it. And of course, Marco Rubio as well, as he joins the Republican field. Rand Paul et al., right? Oh, don't forget, by the way, we got Link Chafee running as well on the Democratic side. There he is, Marco Rubio, who says, I think I can lead this country. That's his theme. I think I can lead this country. 43 years of age. He's not... well, he would be the first Cuban-American ever elected to the presidency. So, again, in this election, we'd be looking at some firsts. But he's got a lot of field to cover in that Republican side. There are some pretty quality candidates, if you believe that big-time name recognition and senatorial and gubernatorial positions in and of themselves make you big-time. Speaking of big, this meeting was really important. Really important. Happens on a Friday as the president cuts away and the national attention goes into the weekend on, normalizing relationships with Cuba. And maybe other than Miami, America really isn't paying attention.
The talk in Little Havana surrounded this historic handshake and meeting between President Obama and Raul Castro.
I'm not against it.
This is a big lie.
The conversation between the leaders of the U.S. and Cuba drew mixed reactions in Miami. Some see no benefit for the people of Cuba. Others say normalizing relations is a step in the right direction.
This has been going on for way too long.
It's been 50 years of this kind of Cold War with Cuba. Normalizing relations with Cuba, taking them off the terror list, all that kind of thing is a very provocative but seemingly type of thing. So maybe the time has come simply by the lack of outrage that America is showing over this. Of course, it's smart if you're trying to do something that you don't want people to pay a lot of attention to, have the meeting on a Friday and the coverage to go into a spring Masters weekend. We'll talk about the Masters a little bit later. And one more thing. Your state of mind is important to us. You can call us at 228-1886. Email us at stateofmind@myritv.com. Facebook, post, tweet. Don't forget the E in Dan York Show. We like to read your stuff, hear your stuff. Really like the voicemails, but here's some Facebook posts that are interesting. All in reaction to you-know-who running for you-know-what. Richard says he spends more time considering Frankenberry or Blueberry for breakfast. Bob says this is good for the talk show business. Y'all should donate to his campaign. And Danny is just laughing. This, of course, all about this gentleman, Link Chafee, who believes he can be the president of the United States. This notion that stuff like this, people over the weekend have said this to me on a number of occasions. Boy, it's great for your talk show. Boy, it's good for the talk show business. Hey, listen, what's good for America is what's good for the talk show business. At this point, I am not ready to suggest to you that Link Chafee running for president is good for America. Did you see the Providence Journal editorial regarding this? I might bring that up tomorrow. The Sunday editorial was once again, scathing. And when it's written, it hurts worse than when it's said. Anyway, the nice thing about Link, if you're Link, is they're kind of oblivious to all of it. When we come back, how he got elected at 36%, how Gina Raimondo got elected at 40%, and how we might want to think about changing that. Stay with us. All right, so congratulations, you're the governor, but only 4 out of 10 people think you should be the governor. I mean, that's always been a conversation around here, and when it's less, it hurts even more, right? Check out this headline here. This resolution will require candidates to be elected by majority vote, and this rep right here wants to bring it to you. Brand new in the legislature, but not brand new to citizens advocacy. There we are. Blake,
Hi, Dan.
welcome.
Thank you.
And it's good to have you.
Thank you for inquiring into my state of mind.
Yes. Every Rhode Islander today, now looking post-game back on Link Chafee's 4-year run, will call the radio show, or those who are complaining about him, and talk about the idea that he wasn't elected by the people. They'll use that phrase. He wasn't elected by the people. I say, well, no. He certainly was. But their sentiment is that he didn't get 50+%. He didn't get the 50% plus 1 vote. And so your legislation is trying to address that, correct?
It is. It is. It requires a majority vote and institutes a system of instant runoff voting, where on the ballot you rank your order of preference. You would rank your first choice, your second choice, or your third choice if it was a 4-person race. And if no one gets above the majority, the 50+1, then the candidate with the least first choices is eliminated, and his or her votes are apportioned based on the voter's next preference.
Okay, so let's go through because there's so many different options out there on how to do this. You know, some states just run off until you get a 50.1%, 50% plus a vote. You want to rank from 1 to 4 if there's 4 candidates who you like best. Is that what you're saying?
It's called instant runoff voting, and it's used around the world with much success. And think about it, you only have to have one election.
Right.
You don't have the expense of the next election. And a problem, I think, with runoffs is suppose you only have half the amount of people show up in the next election, the same quote-unquote illegitimacy problems you spoke of 30 seconds ago would exist in that scenario.
Nobody in America uses it.
Major cities use it in America.
Okay.
Major cities.
Okay, nothing on a gubernatorial or that kind of level.
No.
But we do have runoffs in, near 20 states in America for those kinds of elections. Yeah, well, the theory behind that is interesting. I find it, I'm guessing a lot of voters would think that'd be pretty cool to be able to rank, because sometimes it's just a very hard decision between candidates. The lesser of two evils argument comes up all the time, right? Where people kind of, well, I voted for her because of default. I voted for him because of default. Well, all right, blah, 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 blah.
And that wouldn't exist anymore with a ranked choice voting. It wouldn't with instant runoff voting, because you'd be willing to take a chance on someone. You know, you'd be willing to take a chance on that third-party candidate if you knew that if no one got 50% plus 1, then your second choice would be in the runoff if they're in the top 2. Think about it. You have Bob Healy, Gina Raimondo, and Alan Fung.
Well, let's deal. Here's the results from the last election. All right, 40, 36, 22. Each of those votes, 123,000, are exclusive to the candidate. So you've got 300,000 ballpark votes there. All right, now walk me through this again.
So in the instant runoff voting scenario, Mr. Healy would be eliminated because he is he can obtain the least candidates.
Right.
And we know there was more down ballot candidates who obtained significantly less, but let's just say it was just these 3 running.
Right.
Mr. Healy would be eliminated, and that 22%, their second choices, would be apportioned to Alan Fung and Gina Raimondo. And then one of them would get above 50% at that point.
By the math.
By the math.
Can't be missed.
Can't be missed.
It's not often I just sit here and think on this show, but I think it's really interesting. So you don't want to take the approach of, okay, we take Gina and we take Alan and we make them run again?
I think this is so much more effective and cheaper, and the instant the runoff a month later, it's problematic because if people don't show, there's going to be the same quote-unquote illegitimacy problem. But this way, it's one election, all the people who show up and vote, their votes will be counted in the runoff. It's used around the world. Australia, the House of Representatives and state governments use it. In India, their president and legislative councils through their electoral college use it. In Ireland, the president is elected with it. In London, a city of 8.3 million people, their mayor is elected with it. Major cities in the United States, San Francisco, 400,000 people. Oakland, 400,000 people. San Francisco, 837,000 people. Minneapolis, 400,000 people. St. Paul, 294,000 people. And Memphis, Tennessee, 650,000 people. And they successfully use instant runoff voting.
If we had had a constitutional convention, you would have had a chance to throw this into the hopper for discussion. What are the practical chances of you getting some traction for this legislation?
I think that it's not, I don't know if it'll happen this time around. I think in the next gubernatorial election, if there's a progressive that runs and potentially splits the Democrat vote and a Republican gets in with 40%, I think that at that time it would have a lot more legs.
So the Democratic legislature would be so offended by that outcome that they would look to change the way things are done.
I won't speak to their mindset. I won't say if it's offended or not. I think that would make the practicalities of this bubble to the surface a little more.
You represent Black Island et al., Charlestown, South Kingstown, or Westerly. Those aren't. While your representative district is as large as anybody else's, there's no major community in there. And the reason I mention that is because it'd be nice to see a significantly populated community here in Rhode Island take this on as a micro, right? Cranston or Warwick or Providence even, to take something like this on.
Well, a co-sponsor is Providence Rep. Chris Blazejewski. He's a co-sponsor on this. I have Republicans who are co-sponsors. I'm an independent and a Democrat on the bill.
You had a hearing last week on it, right?
Yes.
How did it go?
It went well. There was compelling testimony, and the committee members seemed to understand how this is the most effective way to fix this problem.
Well, do they see it as a problem?
How could you not, Dan?
Gina Raimondo doesn't see it as a problem right now, I'm sure. Although I'm sure she'd love to have the weight of a 50-plus electorate, even if it's A and B voting, for the first choice, second choice voting. At least there'd be a sense that she was coming in with some kind of momentum.
Part of being elected is a mandate, and to effectively govern, you need a strong mandate. And without getting a majority, I feel that elected officials lack that mandate, and they would be able to much more effectively govern if they had that. So I won't say that she's not happy. Maybe she would want this. Maybe she would want this so she can say, I won instant runoff voting.
Right.
The people endorse my policies, pass my budget.
Right. No, I hear you. It's a fascinating conversation. He's got a couple of cool ideas, too. Stay with us. I'm probably going to play some of that conversation we just had with Blake tomorrow on the radio on WPRO noon to 3, because people love these numbers conversations. They really do. Gina Raimondo gets that honeymoon period, but if she goes south at all, people will complain that, just like Lynn Chafee, the people didn't elect her, when actually they did. You've got some other interesting stuff that you proposed out of the think tank in your mindset of like constituent consumer advocacy. Tell me about it.
So I have a proposed constitutional amendment which provides standing to taxpayers to sue government saying that they're spending money illegally or unconstitutionally. Right now, as a citizen, you generally don't have standing to bring suit against government saying that they're spending your money illegally. And I want to fix that.
What inspired you? 38 Studios?
38 Studios is definitely one of the issues out there. It's the big issue, but I look at what's going on with the convention center, and I think that's potentially violative of our Constitution, the way it's...
How so?
Because the state entered into an agreement with the Convention Center Authority agreeing to pay all of their debts. And as you know, article, I want to make sure I quote the right one. I'll pull out my Constitution. Everyone should have one of these, Dan. Article 4, Section 16 of our state Constitution provides that we will not pledge the faith and credit of the state for the obligations of others unless the people vote on it. And that's what you call a general obligation bond. And I don't think that the state can pledge the credit of the state to pay other people's debts without the people voting on it.
Okay. That is a common argument, and certainly 38 Studios and the moral obligation bond problem only amplified that. And the truth is that Dan York or Blake Filippi do not have their own individual standing to say, hey, look, we think we've been aggrieved.
Exactly.
That'd be a fascinating. So this is something that you do. You are a lawyer that has worked on what, litigation issues, privacy issues. So you're fairly adept at this kind of thinking out of the box type of stuff, right? This is what you've done prior to running for office.
I know how the pieces move.
The chances of that getting any traction are what?
Probably less than instant wrote-off voting, but with anything, it takes time. You know, you look at the master lever, that took years and years and years.
Does any other state have a law that allows a citizen to individually sue its state government if they think illegal spending has gone on?
Not to my knowledge.
So this would be the first in the country?
I believe so. I know California has a standing issue with constitutional questions, and that was actually part of the Supreme Court decision last year dealing with gay marriage. But in terms of taxpayer spending, I don't know of any state that does, but it's a great idea.
Well, this is it's built for, held for further study, no doubt about it. But hey, you know, you start loading folks up with some of these ideas. You're big on the privacy stuff. That's been what you've been doing in your professional advocacy, right?
Yes.
And you have a couple of thoughts on that and bills that you're looking at?
So there's two bills that I've sponsored. One I've co-sponsored, one I'm the lead sponsor on, and that is requiring a warrant before police use a drone. Our Supreme Court has held you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in the airspace above your house, and this would require police to get a warrant prior to using a drone, with exceptions for exigent circumstances or large event monitoring. And the other bill, which I think is really important, requires police get a warrant prior to accessing your cell phone geodata location information. So right now, police can find out where you are and also where you've been over the past 2 years or 3 years, however long the phone companies hold on to that information. So I believe that police should definitely have to get a warrant before accessing that geolocation data, without a doubt.
All conversations that would take an entire show to conduct, so you'll have to come back.
Anytime.
Oh, fascinating, good stuff. The election stuff has got to be addressed. Will it? I don't know, it's up to you. You got to talk to your reps. Not this one, he thinks it's a good idea. One more thing when we come back. There you go. I mentioned at the top of the show that college kids' brains aren't formed until they're late in their 20s, right? But this kid's 21 and has more composure, maturity, and sensibility than most young people I've met at 21, perhaps even myself at 21. How about that performance, huh? Rocked the golf world. We have a new generation in that world now, don't we? Fantastic stuff. See you on the radio tomorrow at noon on WPRO. We'll talk about Filippi's ideas. Bye.